Commander Marcus Kane stood on the observation deck of the USS Defiant, watching Earth rotate slowly beneath him. After 20 years as a Navy SEAL, he thought he had seen everything. The alien contact 3 years ago changed that. Now humanity was part of something bigger, something that made their old war seem like playground fights. His daughter Sarah's laughter echoed through the comm link. "Dad, you should see the sunset from here. The Mars colony has the most amazing view." "I bet it does, sweetheart," Marcus replied, his weathered face softening. At 8 years old, Sarah was his whole world. After losing his wife during the first contact incident, she was all he had left. The Vorthack Empire had arrived with promises of peace and trade. They shared technology that pushed humanity forward by centuries. Medical advances, faster-than-light travel, energy weapons, gifts that seemed too good to be true. Earth's governments, desperate to catch up with galactic civilization, accepted everything without question. Marcus never trusted them. Something in their reptilian eyes, the way they studied humans like specimens, set off every instinct he had developed over decades of combat. But he was just one voice among billions eager for the stars. The Mars Education Center where Sarah studied was supposed to be the safest place in the solar system. Built with Vorthack technology, it had shields that could withstand asteroid impacts and the best teachers from 50 different worlds. Parents across Earth competed to get their children admitted. "Remember, Dad, you promised to visit next week for the science fair," Sarah said. "I'm building a model of the Vorthack hyperdrive engine." "Wouldn't miss it for the world," Marcus assured her. "Or any world." 3 hours later, everything changed. The alarms on the Defiant screamed to life. Marcus ran to the bridge, where Captain Torres stood frozen, staring at the tactical display. Vorthack warships, hundreds of them, dropped out of hyperspace around Mars. "What the hell are they doing?" Marcus demanded. "We're getting a transmission," the communications officer reported. From High Commander Zektal himself. The screen filled with the angular, scaled face of the Vorthack leader. His voice was cold, mechanical through the translator. "Humans of Earth, your probationary period has ended. We have evaluated your species and found you useful. Your children will serve the Empire in our breeding programs. Your adults will work in our mines. Resistance is pointless." Marcus felt his blood turn to ice. "Sarah." The tactical display showed Vorthack dropships descending on Mars. The shields around the education center, the ones the Vorthack themselves had installed, flickered and died. Of course, they had built in a back door. "Can we get there in time?" Marcus asked Torres. The captain shook his head. "They're jamming our jump drives. It would take us 3 days at sublight." On the screen, they watched helplessly as Vorthack ground forces stormed the education center. Human security forces fought back, but their weapons, also provided by the Vorthack, suddenly stopped working. Another back door. Marcus gripped the railing until his knuckles turned white. 20 years of training, of fighting, of protecting people, and he could do nothing but watch as alien soldiers dragged human children onto their ships. He could hear the screams over the open comm channels. "Dad? Dad, what's happening?" Sarah's terrified voice cut through the chaos. "There are scary aliens here," and the transmission cut off. Something inside Marcus broke. Then, in that darkness, something else was born. Something the Vorthack Empire would learn to fear. "Captain," he said, his voice deadly calm. "I need a shuttle." "Kane, you can't dash. I'm not asking." Marcus turned, and Torres stepped back for what he saw in the SEAL's eyes. "They took my daughter. They think humans are weak. They think we're slaves." He smiled, and it was a terrible thing. They're about to learn why humans are the only species on Earth that hunts for sport. The news spread across human space like wildfire. 15,000 children taken from Mars. Another 20,000 from the Jupiter moons. The Vorthack fleet retreated to hyperspace before Earth's forces could respond, leaving behind only a message: submit, or we will return for more. Earth's government called for calm, for negotiations. The people called for blood. Marcus Kane answered neither. In a stolen shuttle with a jury-rigged hyperdrive, he vanished into the vast darkness between stars. The Vorthak had made two mistakes. They had taken his daughter, and they had left him alive. The Empire controlled 1,000 worlds, commanded fleets that could crack planets, and had never lost a war in 10,000 years of history. But they had never faced a human parent with nothing left to lose. Marcus pulled up the star charts he had memorized during his time on the Defiant. The Vorthak Empire was vast, but every empire had weak points. Supply lines, communication relays, slave processing centers. He would find them all. He would burn them all. And somewhere among the ashes, he would find Sarah. The shuttle's computer beeped. Warning, entering Vorthak-controlled space. Recommend immediate course correction. Override, Marcus commanded. And computer, start downloading everything you can find on Vorthak anatomy. I want to know exactly how they bleed. As his shuttle jumped to hyperspace, a single thought echoed in his mind. The Vorthak believed humans were weak because they had only seen humanity at peace. They were about to meet humanity at war. And there was no creature in the galaxy more dangerous than a human protecting their young. The Empire had sown the wind. Marcus Kane would make sure they reaped the whirlwind. On the Vorthak flagship, High Commander Zektal reviewed the acquisition reports with satisfaction. The human children would serve the Empire well. Their genetic diversity was exactly what the breeding programs needed. In a few generations, the Vorthak would be stronger than ever. High Commander, his aide interrupted, we're detecting an unauthorized human vessel entering our space. Just one. Zektal's scaled lips curved in what might have been amusement. Destroy it. Sir, it's not responding to our targeting systems, and it's broadcasting something on all frequencies. Put it through. A human voice filled the bridge, calm and cold as space itself. My name is Marcus Kane. You took my daughter. I'm coming for her, and I'm going to kill every last one of you that stand in my way. Zektal laughed, a harsh sound like grinding stone. One human thinks to threaten the Empire? Send a patrol to vaporize this fool. The transmission continued. You think you know humans. You've seen our diplomats, our traders, our scientists. But you've never seen what we really are. What we become when you threaten our children. Your empire has existed for 10,000 years. I'm going to end it. And it starts now. The patrol ships moved to intercept. 30 seconds later, they were debris. Zektal stopped laughing. What happened? Unknown, sir. The human vessel performed maneuvers that should have torn it apart. And its weapons, sir, those aren't the weapons we gave them. On the screen, the small human shuttle turned toward the nearest Vorthak outpost. The transmission resumed. Every world you took children from, I'll burn. Every ship that carried them, I'll destroy. Every Vorthak who touched them, I'll kill. You want to see what humans are capable of? You're about to get a lifetime's education compressed into your final days. The outpost distress signal lasted 43 seconds. Then silence. Zektal felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries. Fear, not of the human ship or weapons, but of the voice. Calm, controlled, purposeful. This wasn't rage. This was something far more dangerous. This was determination. Alert all commands, he ordered. We have a situation. He didn't yet understand the magnitude of his understatement. The Vorthak Empire had survived for millennia by crushing weak species and absorbing strong ones. They had never encountered a species that grew stronger when cornered, that became more dangerous when wounded, that would burn the galaxy itself to save their young. They had never encountered humans, and Marcus Kane was about to teach them why that was their fatal mistake. The Vorthak slave processing station orbited a dead star at the edge of Empire space. Built like a metal spider stretching across the void, it could hold 1 million prisoners. Today, it held 15,000 human children and one very determined father. Marcus Kane floated in the darkness outside the station's shields, his stolen Vorthak combat armor keeping him alive in the vacuum. 3 weeks of hunting, of following transport routes, and intercepting communications had led him here. 3 weeks of leaving burning outposts in his wake. The Empire was starting to pay attention. Good. Let them know fear. Through the helmet's display, he watched guard patrols moving along the station's exterior. The Vorthak were efficient, predictable. They trusted their technology, their shields, their superior numbers. They didn't understand that to a Navy SEAL, those were just puzzles to solve. Marcus activated the shaped charges he had placed along the shield generator. The explosion was silent in space, but the result was spectacular. A section of the energy barrier flickered and died, leaving a hole just large enough for one man. He was through it in seconds. The first Vorthak guard never saw him coming. Marcus's blade, forged from the armor plating of a destroyed patrol ship, sliced through the alien's environment suit. Purple blood crystallized instantly in the vacuum. The second guard managed to raise his weapon before Marcus put a pulse round through his helmet. Inside the station, alarms wailed. Marcus smiled grimly. They knew he was here. Good. Let them panic. The interior corridors were a maze designed to confuse escapees. But Marcus had spent 3 days studying captured schematics, memorizing every turn, every checkpoint, every cell block. He moved like a ghost, avoiding patrols when he could, eliminating them when he couldn't. The Vorthak had never faced an enemy like this. Their soldiers were trained for massive battles, for overwhelming force. They didn't know how to fight a shadow that killed from the darkness and vanished before they could respond. Marcus reached the first cell block. Behind reinforced transparency, human children huddled together. They looked terrified but unharmed. The Vorthak needed them healthy for their breeding programs. He placed his hand on the access panel. The override codes he had tortured out of a transport captain worked perfectly. The door hissed open. "Everyone stay calm," he said, pulling off his helmet so they could see his human face. "I'm here to get you out." A boy, maybe 10 years old, stared at him with wide eyes. "Are you a soldier?" "I'm a father," Marcus replied. "And I'm taking you all home." He distributed the emergency beacons he had collected from destroyed Vorthak ships. "Put these on. When I give the signal, press the button. Rescue ships will lock onto your position." "Sir," an older girl asked, "how many of us are there?" "My little brother was in Block C." "I'm getting every one," Marcus promised. "Every last child goes home today." He sealed them back in for their protection and moved to the next block. And the next. At each one, the same procedure. Calm the children, give them beacons, promise them safety. With each cell he opened, the hope in his chest grew. Sarah had to be here somewhere. The Vorthak response was getting organized. Marcus could hear boots thundering through corridors, commanders barking orders. They were trying to box him in. Time to change the game. He activated the virus he had uploaded to their systems through the access panels. Every door in the station suddenly locked. Every light went out. Emergency power kicked in, bathing everything in red. Now the Vorthak were trapped in their own maze. Marcus switched to thermal vision and continued his hunt. In the darkness, he was death incarnate. Squads of Vorthak soldiers stumbled blindly while he picked them off one by one. They started shooting at shadows, at each other, at nothing. Fear. They were learning fear. Cell Block J. More children, these ones from the Jupiter moons. A girl with blonde hair ran to the transparency when she saw him. For a moment, his heart stopped. But it wasn't Sarah. "Please, mister," she begged. "My friend Sarah Kane said her dad would come. She said he was the toughest man in the galaxy, and he'd save us." "Are you?" Marcus's hands shook as he opened the door. "Where is she? Where's Sarah?" "They took her yesterday," the girl said, tears streaming. "The ugly ones in the fancy uniforms. They said she was special. Said she was going to the homeworld." The homeworld, the center of the Empire. A fortress world that had never been breached. Marcus forced himself to stay calm. First, save these children. Then, burn the Empire to ash. He finished releasing the last cell block as Vorthak reinforcements finally cut through their own locked doors. 300 soldiers poured into the central chamber where Marcus waited. "Surrender, human," their commander growled through the translator. "You have fought well, but you are outnumbered. Submit, and your death will be quick." Marcus stood in the center of the room, pulse rifle loose in his hands. "You took my daughter, one larva among thousands. She will serve the Empire, as will you in death." "No." Marcus raised his rifle. "She won't. and neither will any of the others. You cannot defeat 300 warriors, human. You will die for nothing. Marcus smiled. I'm human. We've been doing impossible things since we climbed down from the trees. And you made one mistake. What mistake? You put all your soldiers in one room. He pressed the detonator. The charges he had placed throughout the station during his infiltration erupted in sequence. Not enough to destroy the structure. The children were still aboard, but enough to cripple it. Gravity generators failed. Life support sputtered. And, most importantly, the docking clamps holding his modified shuttle in the maintenance bay released. In the chaos of explosions and zero gravity, Marcus moved. The Vorthack soldiers, trained for ground combat, flailed helplessly in the air. Marcus, who had spent years training in space, danced between them like a deadly ballet. His rifle spat death with surgical precision. When the emergency gravity finally kicked in, Marcus was the only one standing. 300 Vorthack soldiers lay dead around him. Purple blood painted the walls. He activated his communicator, broadcasting on all frequencies. This is Marcus Kane to any human vessels in range. I have 15,000 children at these coordinates. They're tagged with emergency beacons. Come get them. Come get them now. Then, to the children, press your buttons. Help is coming. You're going home. Lights began flashing throughout the station as thousands of beacons activated. The signal would reach every human ship within 50 light years. And humans, whatever their differences, would come for their children. Marcus made his way back to his shuttle. The station's remaining crew had locked themselves in the command center, too terrified to face him. He left them alive. Let them report back to their empire. Let them spread the word. The humans were coming, and they were angry. As he powered up the shuttle, a message appeared on his screen. High Commander Zektal himself. Marcus Kane, you have proven troublesome, but your larva is beyond your reach. She travels to the homeworld as we speak. Accept your loss. Take your rescued young and go. Continue this path, and we will exterminate your entire species. Marcus typed his reply. You took my daughter. There's nowhere in this galaxy you can hide her from me. I'm coming, Zektal, and I'm bringing hell with me. He launched from the station as the first human rescue ships dropped from hyperspace. The Earth fleet, cobbled together from military and civilian vessels alike, swarmed the station. They came for their children. All of them. But Marcus Kane had a different destination. The Vorthack homeworld. The heart of an empire that had stood for 10 millennia. They thought it was impregnable. They thought their defenses were perfect. They thought wrong. They had never faced a father with nothing left to lose and the skills to make them pay. As his shuttle jumped to hyperspace, Marcus reviewed the intelligence he had gathered. The homeworld's defenses were legendary. Orbital platforms that could shred fleets. Shield generators that could withstand supernova. A warrior culture that had never known defeat on their own soil. None of it mattered. They had Sarah. He would get her back. And if he had to tear down their entire civilization to do it, so be it. The Empire wanted to see what humans were capable of. He would show them, one dead Vorthack at a time. Behind him, human ships ferried rescued children back toward Earth. The news would spread like wildfire. The children were coming home, saved by one man who refused to accept the impossible. But 15,000 were saved. One was still missing. And Marcus Kane would not stop until she was found. The Vorthack Empire had ruled through fear for 10,000 years. But they had never known true fear. They were about to learn. A human parent was coming for his child, and there was no force in the universe that could stop him. The Vorthack homeworld hung in space like a diseased jewel, its surface covered in metal cities that stretched from pole to pole. For 10,000 years, no enemy had set foot on its soil. The orbital defense platforms numbered in the thousands, each capable of destroying a capital ship with a single shot. The shield network could withstand the combined firepower of a dozen fleets. Marcus Kane studied it all through his shuttle sensors and saw only obstacles to overcome. 6 months had passed since he began his war against the Empire. 6 months of burned outposts, destroyed patrols, and freed slaves. The human fleets were mobilizing, but politics and logistics meant they were still weeks away. Marcus couldn't wait. Every day Sarah spent in Vorthak hands was one day too many. He had not come alone. Word of his crusade had spread through human space like wildfire. Veterans, mercenaries, parents who had lost children, they found him, joined him, followed him. His lone shuttle had become a small fleet of the desperate and determined. They called themselves the Lost Fathers, though many were mothers, brothers, sisters, united by loss, driven by love. Kane, you seeing this? The voice belonged to Maria Vasquez, a former Marine whose son had been taken from Mars. She commanded one of the 7 ships that had joined his crusade. I see it. The defensive grid was even more formidable up close. They're scared. Of 7 ships? Of what 7 ships of humans might do. Marcus highlighted sections of the display. Look at the patrol patterns. They've tripled since last week. They're not protecting against a fleet. They're protecting against us. The Vorthak had learned to fear human ingenuity. Marcus's people had done impossible things. Turned mining ships into weapons. Hacked defense satellites. Used Vorthak technology against them in ways the Empire had never imagined. But this was different. This was the homeworld. So what's the plan? Asked Chun, a physicist whose daughter had been among the taken. His expertise in Vorthak shield technology had proven invaluable. Marcus smiled coldly. We're going to give them exactly what they expect. The attack began at dawn, homeworld time. 7 human ships dropped from hyperspace, weapons blazing. They targeted the outer defense platforms, dancing between return fire with maneuvers that should have torn their ships apart. Human engineering and desperation made the impossible possible. The Vorthak response was immediate and overwhelming. Hundreds of fighters launched. Defense platforms swiveled to target the intruders. The shield network flared to life. It was exactly what Marcus wanted. While the Empire's eyes turned outward, a single stealth pod detached from his shuttle's belly. Inside, Marcus Kane and 3 volunteers plummeted toward the planet's surface. The pod was Vorthak designed, stolen, and modified. To their sensors, it would appear as nothing more than debris from the battle above. The heat of atmospheric entry turned the pod's skin cherry red. Marcus gritted his teeth against the G-forces. Almost there. Almost to Sarah. They landed in the industrial district outside the capital. The Vorthak had concentrated their defenses in military and government sectors. They never imagined humans would target a waste processing plant. Marcus and his team emerged from the pod in stolen Vorthak maintenance uniforms. The disguises wouldn't hold under close inspection, but they only needed to get them to the underground transit system. The capital's undercity was a maze of tunnels and service corridors. The Vorthak upper castes never ventured here, leaving it to automated systems and lower caste workers. It was perfect for infiltration. They moved quickly, following maps extracted from captured databases. Above them, the city shook with the distant thunder of orbital combat. The Lost Fathers were selling their lives dearly, keeping Vorthak attention focused skyward. The breeding complex occupied the city's heart, a towering spire of black metal and organic curves. This was where the Empire shaped its future, where genetic material from 100 conquered species was combined and refined. This was where they had brought Sarah. Marcus felt his anger sharpen to a blade's edge. They thought they could use his daughter like livestock. They thought humans were just another resource to exploit. They were wrong. The complex's service entrance was guarded by 2 bored Vorthak. They died silently, Marcus's knife finding the gaps in their armor with practiced ease. Inside, the team split up. Chun and the others would plant charges throughout the structure. Marcus would find Sarah. He ghosted through corridors that reeked of antiseptic and fear, past laboratories where things that had once been people floated in tanks, past nurseries where hybrid children muled in artificial wombs. The horrors of the Empire laid bare. The human children were kept in the upper levels, in rooms that mimicked Earth environments. The Vorthak had learned that stressed subjects produced inferior genetic material. How thoughtful of them. Marcus checked room after room. Each held human children, some playing with alien toys, others staring at nothing with thousand-yard stares. He memorized each location, transmitted it to his team. They would all be freed. But first, Daddy, he spun toward the voice. There, in a room decorated like a park from Earth, Sarah sat on artificial grass. She was thinner, paler but alive, gloriously alive. Marcus's hands shook as he disabled the door's lock. Then she was in his arms, and for a moment the galaxy stopped. "I knew you'd come," she whispered against his chest. "I told everyone. I said my daddy would come, and he'd make them all sorry." "Yes, baby," Marcus said, tears streaming down his face. "Daddy's here, and we're going home." "Marcus," Chin's voice crackled through the comm, "we've got company." Lots of company. Through the window, Marcus could see Vorthak soldiers pouring into the complex. Someone had noticed the dead guards. Time was up. "Execute Contingency 3, Marcus ordered. "Everyone to the extraction point." He scooped Sarah into his arms and ran. Behind them, explosions began to rock the building. Not the main charges. Those were for later. These were distraction charges, designed to create chaos. The extraction point was a landing pad on the complex's roof. Maria Vasquez had volunteered for the most dangerous job, bringing a ship down through the orbital battle to extract them. Marcus burst onto the roof to find his team already engaged with Vorthak security. Pulse rounds filled the air like deadly rain. He shielded Sarah with his body, returning fire one-handed. "Where's our ride?" someone shouted. As if in answer, a battered human transport dropped from the smoke-filled sky. Maria's ship, scarred by weapons fire but still flying. The cargo ramp lowered before it even touched down. "Move, move, move." They raced for the ship as Vorthak reinforcements flooded onto the roof. Marcus was the last aboard, still carrying Sarah. As the ramp closed, he saw High Commander Zektal himself arrive, surrounded by elite guards. Their eyes met across the battlefield. Marcus smiled and held up a small device. Zektal's eyes widened in understanding just as Marcus pressed the button. The charges Chin's team had planted throughout the breeding complex detonated simultaneously. The pride of the Vorthak Empire, the foundation of their genetic supremacy, collapsed in flame and thunder. 10,000 years of genetic research, gone in seconds. The transport rocketed skyward, dodging defense fire through skill and desperation. In the cargo hold, Marcus held his daughter tight. Around them, his team worked frantically to treat wounds and prep for hyperspace. "Do we get them all?" Sarah asked quietly. Marcus checked his datapad. Confirmation signals from other teams across the planet. "Every human child on this world is either freed or being freed right now, sweetheart. We got them all." She nodded solemnly. "Good." The bug faces were mean. They said humans were weak. But I told them they were wrong. I said humans were the scariest things in the galaxy when you made us mad. "Out of the mouths of babes," Chin muttered, working on a damaged hyperdrive component. They broke atmosphere to find space filled with burning metal. The Lost Fathers had sold themselves dearly. Only 3 ships remained, all damaged but still fighting. The arrival of transports carrying freed children gave them new purpose. They formed up around the escaping vessels, shields overlapping, weapons covering all angles. The Vorthak fleet, confused by attacks from within and without, hesitated just long enough. One by one, the human ships jumped to hyperspace. Marcus's was the last, staying until every other vessel was away. As stars elongated into lines, Marcus allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. They had done the impossible, breached the homeworld, rescued the children, struck a blow the Empire would never forget. But it wasn't over. It would never be over until every human child was free and the Empire understood the price of threatening humanity's young. 3 days later, they dropped back into normal space at the edge of human territory. A fleet waited for them. Not Vorthak, but human. Hundreds of ships, from military dreadnoughts to civilian yachts. They had come to bring their children home. And, at the fleet's head, the flagship Humanity's Vengeance. A name that said everything about human intentions. Admiral Chun, no relation to Marcus's physicist friend, appeared on the screen. Commander Kane, the United Earth government extends its thanks for your actions. The children you rescued are already being reunited with their families. Just doing what needed doing, Admiral. Indeed. And now it's our turn. The Admiral's expression hardened. The Vorthack want to negotiate. They're offering reparations, technology transfers, even territory. In exchange, they want humanity to forget this ever happened. Marcus looked down at Sarah, asleep in his arms. Safe. But thousands more were still out there, scattered across the Empire's slave worlds. What's our response, Admiral? The old officer smiled, and it was not a kind expression. The President asked me to deliver a message to the Empire. 2 words, which are, never again. The screen expanded to show the full human fleet. More ships dropped from hyperspace every minute. Cargo vessels had been retrofitted with weapons. Mining ships carried nuclear warheads. Every human who could fly, fight, or support those who did had come. The Vorthack Empire had ruled through fear. They had never faced a species that grew stronger under pressure, that united in the face of threats to their young, that would burn the stars themselves for their children. They had taken human children, and humanity was coming to take them back. All of them. Marcus Kane had shown them the way. One man's rage had lit a fire that now burned in every human heart. The Empire wanted to see what humans were capable of. They were about to receive a lesson that would echo through history. The age of the Vorthack Empire was ending. The age of humanity had begun. And it started with a father's love and a seal's promise. No one touches our children. Not now. Not ever. Not while a single human draws breath. Sarah stirred in his arms, blinking up at him sleepily. Daddy? Are we home? Marcus looked out at the fleet, at Earth shining in the distance, at the future humanity would forge in fire and determination. Yes, baby. We're home. And we're never leaving again. The Empire had made one fatal mistake. They had forgotten that humans were not prey. They were protectors. And they protected their own with a fury that would shake the stars.